Welcome in to Outkick the show. I am your fearless leader, Clay Travis. I hope all of you are having fantastic Wednesdays wherever you may be. Update on the schedule. I'm doing the show tomorrow morning, and then I am leaving for New York City. I will be in New York City all weekend long for a little bit of a getaway, a little bit of a vacation, a little bit of a respite. And so if you're in New York City and you're a VIP, go check the message board. We're going to have a meetup, grab a few beers, and that is what is coming for the weekend. So unless there is major news, I probably am not going to do the show I'll do my radio show tomorrow morning, then I'm hopping a flight, and I probably will not do an afternoon show. But if there's major news, I'll hit you up from New York City, but just kind of giving you an update there. Lots to get to today. Lots to get to in the world of sports and beyond. WWE Raw. I am an investor in WWE. I've been paying attention to the ratings for Raw and SmackDown and comparing it to the NBA playoffs. I want to talk to you about the incredible value that is still there to be unlocked from the WWE as it compares to the NBA. Going to give you some dollar figures, and I want you to chew on these for a minute. Brady versus Belichick. I think we have entered into a Cold War between Brady and Belichick. ESPN had a story up, I believe it was from Adam Schefter this morning, saying Tom Brady might retire. And then in the article, there was nobody who thought that Tom Brady might actually retire. I thought that was pretty interesting in and of itself. 100% talk about that. The woolly mammoth maybe being brought back to life. This, I think, is a revolutionary move, bringing back an extinct mammal. We talked about this some on the show this morning, but I can't stop thinking about the woolly mammoth coming back to life. Trump has sent our nominee for Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, I believe is how you pronounce his name. He has met with Kim Jong-un. Could Donald Trump end up winning the Nobel Prize for bringing peace to the Korean Peninsula between North and South Korea? And why I think potentially Trump is the perfect guy to negotiate with Kim Jong-un. Also, SEC draft picks over the past 10 years. How have they looked? Where have they come from? How do they look going into the new world order here? So much to discuss. But first, I got to tell you, if you are not gambling on the NBA playoffs, and you are not gambling on the NHL playoffs, and you are not contemplating gambling on NFL draft prop bets, you're wasting your life. And if you're going to gamble, you need the best possible information you can find anywhere, and that is sportsbookreview.com. Go to sportsbookreview.com. Get hooked up now. You'll be glad that you did, because what price you get is incredibly important to whether or not you will be able to get and win money over time. Go check out sportsbookreview.com right now. You'll be glad that you did. All right, also, get your mortgages in. We are going to have a weekend in Las Vegas. That weekend in Las Vegas should be phenomenally fun, but it's going to be limited to a certain number of people because I can't take over an entire hotel, at least not yet. So I have a limited number of hotel rooms available, a limited number of tickets available. And so as a result, if you want to be there, you need to go become an Outkick VIP. And if you're not an Outkick VIP, the only way that you're going to be able to guaranteed go is if you close a mortgage with my friends at thehomeloanexpert.com, www.thehomeloanexpert.com. My guy Ryan Kelly will take care of you. He'll close you out. He'll get you hooked up with a brand new mortgage wherever you are in the country. If you do it in the month of April, I will give you a perfect setup. I will give you a perfect setup. You'll be glad that you did it, and you will be well on your way to saving a bundle on a trip to Las Vegas. You, my friends, are going to have an awesome time. So you will be glad that you did so. Okay, let's dive right into the stories. Raw. This is amazing. Everybody wants to talk about what a great year the NBA is having from a television ratings perspective. They're up 5 years compared to the last 5 years ago, but they are down relative to the WWE, which is actually kicking ass and taking names. The WWE right now is on fire right as their television property comes up for bid. Now, I want to give you a couple of details here because this blew me away. What do you think the WWE costs a year for NBC to air Raw and to air SmackDown on the USA Network? What do you think it costs? I want your expectations. I want your guesses on Periscope and Facebook. What do you think NBC pays a year to have access to air Raw on Mondays and SmackDown on Tuesdays? What do you think it costs? All right, let me give you a number out here. The NBA on both TNT and ESPN costs $2.5 billion a year. That's billion with a B. The NBA costs $2.5 billion a year. A lot of guesses rolling in, a lot of different numbers. $200 million roughly is the cost. So I want you to think about this right now. The WWE on the USA Network is outrating the NBA playoffs on ESPN and TNT, and it costs 1/10 of the dollars that the NBA costs. That should be a record scratch moment for you out there if you've been thinking about the sports rights bubble. I'm a WWE shareholder. The WWE gets more total viewers than the early rounds of the NBA playoffs and still has the ability to put all of its best events on pay-per-view or in the WWE network. This is an amazing detail, I think, that very few people know. Again, NBC, Comcast NBC, pays $200 million a year for the WWE, and the NBA charges $2.5 billion. Now, WWE regularly trounces the NBA in the regular season, like 3-1. LeBron James and Cleveland Cavaliers play on ESPN. They get dunked on by the WWE. Even in the playoffs, though, when in theory on Monday night you've got two pretty good matchups, the Heat against the Sixers and the Spurs against the Warriors, more people watch the WWE. I just think that's a remarkable stat that very few people discuss. And isn't that worthy of contemplation when you think about this? I think the reality is the WNBA is insanely overvalued for its television product. Hopefully the WNBA actually has to pay to be on television. Hopefully ESPN doesn't pay legitimate dollars to put WNBA games on. I saw ESPN put out a stat. I'm not joking about this. ESPN put out a stat recently, and they said that the WNBA draft, the viewership increased by 25%. And I'm like, yeah, they went from 7 to 9. I mean, come on. This is not a major undertaking here when you have to brag about the WNBA draft. I wouldn't even put the WNBA draft on this show. They were like, hey, Clay, the WNBA wants Outkick to cover the draft, or you can sit in front of a banner and talk for 30 minutes. Which content would you rather have? I would take me sitting in front of a banner talking for 30 minutes, even if they offered me the WNBA for free. Be a bad branding play for me. If you guys came on and Outkick had the WNBA draft on, you'd be like, fuck Clay Travis, I'm never watching that guy again. I tried to sit down and watch him talk about sports, and instead the WNBA draft was on. I'd rather sit and look at an empty banner on Periscope and Facebook than watch the actual NBA draft happen. But anyway, it was up 25%. Congratulations to ESPN for that. But I think it's a great example of the failure of sports rights to value audiences correctly. I don't understand at all how $200 million is all that NBC has had to pay for the WWE. If you consider that in conjunction with the NBA selling for $2.5 billion. Clearly, if the WWE is outrating the NBA for most of the year, right? Most of the year, the WWE has the better product. Shouldn't the WWE, I don't know, cost at least $500 million a year? Isn't the WWE insanely undervalued relative to its cost? Especially when you consider that the WWE has a pretty young fan base. I am just amazed by this overall, the fact that the NBA is so insanely overvalued and that nobody talks about their overall audiences on cable and how they compare to other competing cable interests. For instance, did you know that Laura Ingram's show outrated on Fox News every single NBA playoff game? Remember when everybody got mad at Laura Ingraham because she told LeBron James to shut up and dribble? Isn't it remarkable that Laura Ingram's television show about the news outrates actual NBA playoff games? I hope you guys bought WWE stock like I did. I tripled since I told you to buy it. I think there's a good chance that somebody's going to buy the WWE for $50 or $60 a share. Right now, the company's valued at $3 billion. I think when you look at all the money that's being spent on sports rights, it's amazing to me. Think about this for a minute. The NBA television contract for the next decade or whatever it is, they're paying more. Think about this for a minute. I want you to think about this. The WWE is valued every single year, it had been for the past several years, for less than the NBA television contracts sell for. That's a mind-boggling stat to me. I like to look at cost and try to assess value. Don't look at the money that the WWE is producing. Look at the value of their audience. This company's worth $5 or $6 billion. I don't have any doubt at all. Right now, it trades at $3 billion market cap valuation. Listen to me when I tell you that you should be buying stock in this. I mean, as much dollars as you have free, put it into WWE stock. I think it's likely to get bought out at some point for a lot more than it's selling for right now. If you'd started buying it at 13, like I told you to, as it fell down, you'd tripled your money already. So, think about it. Think about the value that could be associated and unlocked there. And also, the next time somebody brags to you about NBA television ratings, be like, yeah, they're pretty good, at least if you don't compare them to the WWE. All right, I think what's going on in New England right now, did you guys see the article that ESPN popped early this morning while I was still live on the radio show about Tom Brady contemplating retirement at the age of 41? And then inside the article, if you actually read it, nobody said they thought that Tom Brady was actually going to retire. I think what's happened right now is we have an actual battle going on between Tom Brady and Bill Belichick over who is the controller of the New England Patriots franchise. And I think ultimately Bill Belichick holds all the cards. But I think Belichick, everybody has an ego when they become successful. Everybody wants to believe that they have the magic ingredient, that they have the secret sauce, that they are the straw that stirs the drink. And I think from an ego perspective, what Bill Belichick wants to prove is that he's the greatest NFL coach of all time and that he is the reason why the Patriots have succeeded, not Tom Brady. And I think Tom Brady also wants to prove, wait a minute, I'm the greatest quarterback of all time. The reason why we've succeeded is me, not you, Bill Belichick. And I think right now, as Brady's career is coming to a close, you've got a constant conflict between which man's legacy is going to predominate. Which one was more important for the overall Patriots legacy of 8 Super Bowls, 5 of them which were wins? Is it Tom Brady or is it Bill Belichick? And so, I think Brady not showing up for the off-season workouts. I think Gronk not showing up for the off-season workouts. I think guys are out there. I think Brady, when Malcolm Butler got benched, going on to Malcolm Butler's Instagram account and saying, we always love playing with you. I think there is zero doubt that there is a battle between Brady and Belichick. And I got a crazy question for you. Is there any way that one of these guys decides to walk away? And or what if Brady got traded by Belichick? As Belichick's final evil genius, I am the emperor final move, what if he traded away Tom Brady? What if he said, Brady, this is my team, you've been great, but get out of here, we're going to continue to win at a high level. All right? I would love to know what is going to end up happening here. The battles and egos here are massive. Maybe Bob Kraft wouldn't allow it. Maybe Belichick decides to walk away. I don't know what's going to end up happening, but this is an incredible battle between two high-willed individuals, and I don't know what the overall outcome is going to be, but I do wonder how much longer can Bob Kraft militate this fight between the two of them. I think there is a lot of selective leaking that's going on to the media. I think what happened with Jimmy Garoppolo is continuing to loom large. The fact that Garoppolo was there and ready to take over the reins and maybe be just as successful as Brady for the next 5 to 7 years in New England. Instead, the 49ers get him for a song, for a second-round pick. This whole thing is very strange. I am intrigued to see what is going to end up happening here. All right, this to me is a huge story. We are close to bringing back the woolly mammoth. If you haven't been paying attention, the woolly mammoth was found in a frozen snowbank somewhere in an Arctic region, and it had fallen 42,000 years ago into this snowbank. Now Harvard scientists believe that they can extract that DNA from the woolly mammoth and that they are going to be able to bring the woolly mammoth back to life. And I asked you guys a question early this morning during the radio show. Do you believe the woolly mammoth should be brought back to life? 60% of you said yes. 40% of you said no. This is an intriguing battle that doesn't just include the science. It also includes everything around the world of ethics. And so when you think about the Animal Thunderdome, which is an expertise of Outkick the Coverage, my radio show, this to me is a really intriguing angle. What should happen with the woolly mammoth? Should we bring the woolly mammoth back from extinction because we have the technological ability to do it? And if we are going to do that, how can we not bring back every other animal that is out there and also bring them back from extinction if they haven't died that long ago? Can we bring back the saber-toothed tiger? Can we bring back the dodo bird? Can we bring back all of these different animals? The Lord God bird, the woodpecker, the big woodpecker that disappeared that everybody thinks was so amazing to see. It's like a massive, like giant woodpecker. Could we bring back the giant kangaroo? You know, there used to be like 12-foot kangaroos all over Australia. That's not a joke. That's real life. Like they had giant kangaroos. I don't think we can bring back dinosaurs because the dinosaur DNA is too destroyed, which was obviously the premise of Jurassic Park, Michael Crichton's book. Maybe at some point we'll be able to, with bones and bone fibers and everything else, 3D printing. I have no idea which way the world's going to go. And we could have a real-life Jurassic Park in the future. But to me, this woolly mammoth angle is intriguing because I think this is what we're headed towards. I like to think about 100 years from now or 200 years from now, how are people going to judge us? Because if you are a historian and you pay attention to the way that everybody judges history now, you learn something interesting. Everybody in the future is going to continue to believe some of the things that we do are idiotic, indefensible, and absurdly dumb. And maybe even racist or sexist or completely unacceptable, right? This is what history teaches you. People in the modern day always think they're insanely evolved. They always think, oh, we figured everything out. And then 100 or 200 years from now, people will look back at you and they'll be like, man, those guys and gals were Neanderthals. And I don't know what they're going to consider that we do is Neanderthal-like behavior, but I've got a couple of ideas for you. All right, to me, the woolly mammoth is paving the way here. One, I think the idea that people have natural births is going to cease to exist. I think in the future, women and men, and men and men, and women, and maybe groups of people will have children that grow like inside of a house like plant. You will have like a house plant. You'll be like, we're having a baby. Here he is. He's the size of a peanut. And every day you'll be able to walk in and see him growing. And before you have that baby, I think that you will be able to select the best genetic equations that you want that baby to have. Designer babies, I think, are going to happen. I think you will select his intellect. I think you will select his height, weight, skinny, fat, everything will be selected before you have a baby. And I think people in the future will look back and they will say, oh, they will distinguish between whether you were natural born or whether you were planned, right? And the natural born babies will become like discriminated against because they'll be like, oh, they're dumb. You never know. You never have any idea what to expect from them. And so poor people will have natural born babies and rich people will have all of these superhuman babies, right? Because you'll have the money to be able to genetically alter the baby. And people will look back and they'll say, oh my God, eventually I can't believe that moms used to carry babies inside of them. We will be considered barbaric because we had to reproduce by having sex. I think hundreds of years from now, people will look back on us. And if there's like a statue of Clay Travis, at some point people might decide, oh, you know what? That guy was created by sex, and they might just throw red paint all over me because they consider me to be an awful human being, right? There will be a natural born versus non-natural born segment of the population. I also think that it's possible that in the next couple of 100 years, the idea that we ever ate meat and ate other animals will be considered unforgivable. I think it's possible that all the vegans out there that are sitting around saying you shouldn't be eating meat and everything else, that people will say like, oh my God, my great-great-grandpa used to eat meat. He used to eat cows. He used to eat pigs. Can you believe that? They ate animals. And I think everybody will be judged similar to how people are judged now if they own slaves. We are all a product of our eras, and we are doing something now, whatever it is, which will make us completely foreign and unforgivable and awful human beings. Even the most social justice warrior among us will be doing something that our ancestors, our progeny in the future will consider to be unacceptable. And I bring that up for this reason. What do we do when science is way ahead of ethics? This to me is what the woolly mammoth represents. This step into the future where we have the scientific ability to do things that we haven't ethically comprehended. Another thing that might happen in the future, we may never die. We may never die. We may figure out how to regenerate bodies. And so people in the future will look back and they'll be like, hey, that was back when people died. That was back when people got buried. That was back when a disease could kill someone. That was back before immortality. It's fun to think about what the world will be like in hundreds of years. But the lesson that you learn by studying history is that we are doing something barbaric today that our future descendants will find to be utterly indefensible. And I would say to you, this is why I don't judge people in the 1800s, so I don't judge people in the 1600s, because everyone is a product of their time. And if you had known what was to come, you could have potentially made smarter decisions, but we did not actually have that ability. So I'm thinking to myself, I might like to be cryogenically frozen, like Walt Disney and Ted Williams, and maybe be able to come back one day. Because everybody else out there right now is like, oh, it's crazy that Walt Disney got cryogenically frozen, and it's crazy that Ted Williams got cryogenically frozen. But what if everybody else in the future is going to consider them to be geniuses? What if Ted Williams is going to come back and he's going to play baseball in 2300 and he's going to be the best baseball player everywhere? What if Walt Disney's going to come back in 2300 and he's going to start making new movies? Everybody's going to be like, wow, Walt Disney was a genius to be able to come back to life. Not saying I'm going to do it, but one of the things about starting to become rich is I'm thinking to myself, maybe I do want to get cryogenically frozen. Who knows what might happen in the future? And I'll do my whole family too. Might do it. Don't know. Might end up being a genius. 300 years from now, your families might be saying, you know what? Everybody else who used to listen to Clay Travis is dead, but I'll be damned if that son of a bitch isn't still alive now in 2400. All right. Trump is going to meet with North Korea. I'm in favor, by the way, of bringing back the woolly mammoth, but I do think it raises all sorts of interesting ethical questions about what exactly is going to happen. All right. Trump and North Korea. I am utterly fascinated by this, and I'm fascinated by this for this reason. Donald Trump is a disruptor. He breaks everything that he touches. Sometimes that can be good. Sometimes that can be bad. Some things need to be broken. Some things need to not be broken. It's unfortunate Donald Trump breaks everything, right? But I think that Donald Trump might be the right kind of crazy to get along well with Kim Jong-un. Let me explain. One of the challenges that we've had about dealing with a guy like Kim Jong-un is we have no idea how a logical, sane person like Barack Obama or George W. Bush or Ronald Reagan or any of our other presidents, Jimmy Carter, that have existed in our life, how they are going to interact with Kim Jong-un, because on some level, they are completely different. And they are going to have awkward personal interactions for that reason. Bill Clinton, too. I don't know that Kim Jong-un and Donald Trump are that different. I think it's possible that these two guys could hit it off because they each are the right kind of crazy. You ever notice how sometimes a guy and a girl who are both crazy and nobody else can stand them end up together and somehow they fit and their union makes sense? And you're like, I have no idea how that couple stays together. I have no idea how they get along. I have no idea how they even manage to sit through a meal together. They're both crazy. But somehow the crazy and the crazy doesn't repel because they're the same. They somehow end up together. I think it's possible. Nobody else is talking about this. I think it's possible that Donald Trump could be the perfect kind of crazy to show up and negotiate with North Korea. I want you to think about this. What do they both love? Parades. If Donald Trump can stand beside Kim Jong-un and watch a bunch of military parades go by, then he could invite him to come back to Washington, D.C. They might actually be pretty similar. I bet Kim Jong-un has got a string of porn star mistresses all over North Korea that he's banging like crazy. I bet that they are both the right kind of crazy. And the way that you negotiate with a crazy man is not by having an established foreign policy where you're trying to think on a broad geopolitical level. It's by being able to hang out with the guy and actually like him. And so I think it's possible, just like Donald Trump gets along with Dennis Rodman, and Dennis Rodman gets along with Kim Jong-un, that these two guys come together as the right kind of crazy, and actually the world could benefit in a way that having a sane person negotiate with a crazy person would not work, because this relationship is going to be predicated on individual personal dynamics. And Kim Jong-un may be the kind of guy who stays up all night calling leaders, just like Donald Trump is. They might be the right kind of crazy for each other. That could lead to North and South Korea having peace on the peninsula. It could lead to the denuclearization of North Korea. And this is going to sound wild, but I'm telling you right now, it could also lead to Donald Trump deserving the Nobel Prize for Peace. Because everybody out there has been focused on what Donald Trump does wrong. But one thing that Donald Trump seems to be able to do is create relationships. Okay? He creates relationships and bases our country's relationship with that country on how he feels about the leader. He likes the leader of China. He likes Abe, who he's meeting with right now from Japan. They understand that Donald Trump is not about the geopolitical situation surrounding the country. He's about whether or not they have interpersonal chemistry. If he and Kim Jong-un have interpersonal chemistry, I think it's possible we get a transcendent, incredible moment that makes the world much safer. Now, the downside is, I think it's also possible that they hate each other and that we go to war. I think this is an incredibly combustible relationship, but I think the trajectory of the relationship right now, with us having sent Pompeo to North Korea and Kim Jong-un having agreed to meet, and the things seem to be working between North and South Korea right now, I think the possibility is that Trump is the perfect kind of crazy to negotiate with Kim Jong-un. And if he can bring peace to the Korean Peninsula, what if Donald Trump deserves the Nobel Peace Prize? Sometimes people, history teaches us that sometimes improbably, the people that you expect to make the biggest difference do it in the least expected ways imaginable. And so I think it's possible that Donald Trump is the right kind of crazy to finally solve the intractable North Korea problem. All right, final thoughts. Final thoughts here. I've got this data that I thought was actually interesting. Somebody says, pathological liar. Pathological liars can do good things. Marriage counselors lie a lot. They make the couple think that they each still like each other. Sometimes a well-placed lie is much better than the truth. Donald Trump may well be a pathological liar. That doesn't mean that he couldn't be an incredible asset to the country. Stop thinking in terms of black and white, 100% right and wrong. Think about nuance. Oftentimes success comes somewhere between right and wrong. This is an amazing stat. I just wanted to run through this. Jim Wyatt, who writes about the Titans for the Truth, writes about the Titans for their local website. These are the draft picks from NFL SEC schools the last 10 years. I thought this was an amazing stat. Data out there. I retweeted it. You can follow me on Twitter at Clay Travis if you want this data. Which SEC schools over the last decade have produced the most draft picks? Alabama, 65. LSU, 65. Florida, 55. Georgia, 49. Arkansas, 36. South Carolina, 34. Auburn, 32. Insanely low level. Texas A&M 31, Missouri 29, Tennessee 26, shameful. Mississippi State 22, Ole Miss 21, Vandy and Kentucky each with 16. This is amazing. This is amazing because LSU over the last decade with Nick Saban has had the exact same number of draft picks as Alabama. They've had an equally talented team. It's amazing. Florida obviously recruits very well. Georgia, and then there's a tremendous drop-off. I just thought that in particular, the fact that South Carolina had more draft picks than Auburn is pretty surprising. I thought that the fact that A&M and Missouri had more than Tennessee, surprising. Anyway, I just wanted to share that data. I'm off to New York City. I appreciate all of you. If you enjoyed the show, share it. Go to sportsbookreview.com to get all your gambling info for tonight's games, NBA and NHL, and also the NFL. And if you need a mortgage, go to my friends at thehomeloanexpert.com. Make sure you get hooked up. I am Clay Travis, DBAP boys and girls. I'll be live tomorrow, 6 to 9 a.m. Eastern, and then I'm off to New York City. If you're a VIP, check out the message board. We're going to have a meetup in the city. I will see y'all tomorrow.